All right, mate.
Hello, mate. We've also got another mate here.
Thank you very much for having me on a novel adventure introduction.
You've been welcomed into the intro section.
Exactly.
Of the pod.
I'm actually more nervous about this than I was the first time I had it.
Welcome to the inner sanctum. Usually our listeners now just prepare for me and Jack sort of either singing really bad songs to Wuthering Heights or just sort of spouting shite for 20, 30 seconds.
You got any shite to spout?
Rather than the 20, 30 minutes that we do.
So this book, I'll admit I went into it with a degree of scepticism and perhaps was a bit unkind to it. But actually what was good about this show was that actually points were raised. Points were raised that have made me reconsider
I've told a couple of people that we've been doing Win the Willows for this, and initially they scoffed in my face.
Yeah.
On multiple occasions, actually.
Yeah.
But then I think this provides...
How much of that was just like the season and it being cold and people having
Potentially. But I think this sheds a lot more light than what Kenneth Graham potentially anticipated all those years ago.
It's true. And it's also our last show of the series.
Yeah.
I think we've done really well this year.
Yeah, thanks, man. I think so too.
Well done, guys.
Which means it's also the last... ever chapter of WormWorld.
Yeah, the finale.
Or is it? the last chapter of WormWorld. For now.
Are you happy with how WormWorld's panned out?
My sort of method in writing, I don't know if any other writers sort of follow the same pursuit. I don't know, your Pullmans, your Rowlings, your Jacqueline Wilsons. I forget what I've written the chapter before, so I try and mould the next chapter around that and just hope for the best. And I feel like it's actually done me all right.
It doesn't come across at all.
It's almost like writing, you know, that sort of thing you do at like a parlour game or something, where you write a sentence and fold it, and then hope for the best.
So would you say that your writing style is forgettable?
No, I'd say
it's postmodern,
unforgettable,
freeform.
Yeah, exactly. So you got that to look forward to as well.
So it's our last show this year, but we will be back very shortly with a whole new series.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Alright, let's get this done. I got a book signing at 7.
Hello and welcome to a novel adventure where we're reading a book we should have read when we were, 8?
Well, you say that, but it is actually quite... when I was reading... Well, we haven't even said hello yet. But the thing about this book, I was really surprised in that it uses quite an extensive vocabulary, off the bat. I was quite surprised. I don't know when it was written. I didn't... Well, some words I didn't know.
Today, we're reading Kenneth Graham's Wind in the Willows, a lovable woodland romp with many of the best scenes featuring a roly-poly toad. How are we doing, Joshes?
Joshes.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Should we just say it at the same time? Good, thanks.
Yeah, good. Fuck that up. So, do you want to do it again? Say fine. 3, 2, 1.
Fine. Fuck me.
A Happy New Year to both of you.
Oh, Happy New Year. And a Merry Christmas.
Thanks, Josh. You don't want me to ask you the last 3 things you've read?
We have the same thing all the time. You can do if you want.
Okay, yeah.
Wind in the Willows. I'm still reading, actually, a Scandinavian murder novel by Joe Nesbo. Nope, it's
Leopard.
A sequel.
Okay.
Exactly, yeah. Pretty gritty, but it's quite long, so it's taken me about 6 months because these books are interwoven.
Fair enough.
And then the last thing was probably still... The Goldfinch. We spoke about that about 3 pods ago.
I've been reading. My sister works for Vintage for a Penguin subsidiary.
She does,
and she just gave me a copy of an unofficial Anthony Joshua biography. So I'll probably.
Oh, really? What, unreleased?
Was it like a fanfic?
That's cool.
Yeah.
A fanfic.
Yeah.
like he does something other than boxing.
Just like Hunter, Steve Bruce, where he writes a book and he is a boxer, yet a detective or something like that, or an astronaut. Which would be great.
There is another book actually that I saw in Waterstones the other day that I might get myself for a belated Christmas present. Vladimir Putin, life coach. And as you can see, we'll post up the picture. It's by a guy called Rob Sears. I had a quick flick through it.
And the picture's really
It's got Vladimir Putin in sort of like a new age.
Sat like David Brent.
Yeah.
It's quite seductive,
and it sort of like
actually.
discusses, like, it's a bit like, you know that sort of phrase, what would Jesus do? It's a bit like, what would Vlad do?
Yeah.
So it's like all sorts of life teachings you can learn from the man himself.
That sounds ugly. Where was that? Waterstones?
Waterstones, yeah. Now available in hardback.
What about yourself? Is there any books that you've... What was the question? Like the last 3 books?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm reading the new Philip Pullman.
The new Philip Pullman?
That
You've got another one out?
Mate, Book of Dust. That chunky boy over there. Yeah, it's quality.
Was it good?
Yeah, set 10 years later. Lyra's 21, having all sorts of problems.
Drug problems.
Yeah.
She's separate.
She's gone to uni.
Her demons ran away and left her.
They've
fallen out.
How was that? Did she get the splice? I mean, I've only read the first one.
They split up in the third one. She has to tear herself away from him so she can go to the world of the dead. It's painful.
The World of the Dead?
Yeah.
This has got very far-fetched. I'm just watching the one on DCI Player at the moment, and there was a bear that... And we've read it as well.
Are you saying that like one of the main plot points?
I couldn't believe the bear.
By surprise.
You knew about the bear.
Well,
You talked about it loads on the
like
blog.
it. I like
his jaw comes off.
I like it when the jaw... I can't wait for that, if I'm honest. I'm 2 behind, so I'm thinking that's coming up
World
soon.
of the Dead.
But I can't believe it's got more far-fetched.
Yeah. It's good.
Okay.
I got you some late Christmas presents.
Oh, that's very kind of you, mate.
Is it Vladimir Putin's biography?
This one's for Jack.
That's the rustling of Santa's sack.
Now I feel bad because I haven't got him anything.
That's all right.
Oh my god, they're wrapped.
This is what was the weight in your bag.
Part of the weight.
It looks like that's the ship from.
Oh! I need to explain what that was. So this is it's a bottle of chili amigo oil from the chili store.
Is it like to put on food or to essentially rub into your skin?
With a sombrero hat. Yeah. That's the only way I can describe it.
It might be able to double as a spinny top.
This is all no use for a bottle, mate.
Thanks, mate.
JC, I got you.
Cheers,
Thanks,
mate.
man.
I'll buy you.
You know I like my chili.
I'll buy you a pint. Egg. What is it? It's a boiled egg mould in the shape of a skull. I'm not going to lie, his is better. This seems like an afterthought.
Actually,
I buy that near the till.
I bought that one first. I thought I better get Jack's on it. Eggomatic.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Oh, cheers, man. That's very, very. And
Eggomatic.
As it's our last show of the year, I thought it might be nice to nominate 3 things we'd like to read in 2020.
Yeah.
They can be either pod related or just books that you want to read generally.
Good call.
WormWorld Chapter 2, not Chapter 2.
Series 2, yeah, because it's going
Series 2. It's not got a Netflix show yet.
Eventually, they're giving it to any old shit these days. I reckon it's going to be in the running. I would quite like to read a Scandinavian horror.
The one you're reading now?
Yeah.
You want to finish it?
Just so I can read something else.
Okay. What if I said to you?
And also, yeah, obviously Vladimir Putin's biography.
Yeah, mate, that's a great tip in there. I've already shaved my head.
Anthony Joshua's astronaut adventure. And Sherlock Holmes.
I want to be Sherlock Holmes, actually.
Yeah.
That's a
all
really
right,
good...
we could do
It's
Sherlock
quite
Holmes.
sort of typically British in it, and I think like
It's
one
quite
of those
sort of
things.
typically British in it.
You know, what with Brexit and whatnot.
Yeah. All right,
Yeah.
we'll chalk down Sherlock Holmes for the next season.
I quite want to do like a spy novel. I don't know whether...
Alex Rider.
Which one's that one?
We've done a few,
Stormbreaker.
We're on series. We'll be on series 3 by then, and I want to do some adult books, not just.
I want to do Stormbreaker.
Yeah.
I want to do
Also, I want to do Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone at some point.
I want more talking animals, so maybe Animal Farm.
Okay.
Um,
all right, that's a nice segue into the news that because this is the last show of the series, it's also the last chapter of WormWorld.
Thank God.
Thank God. Well, so the thing about this is that I didn't know, because I was planning on writing this out for a good 20 or 30 episodes. And so I've been forced...
scope.
Yeah. Because it's when you're a writer, Josh, I don't know if you know, but your mind sort of maps everywhere and you have these intricate relationships. So I've been forced to now bring it to a premature conclusion. So what I've written is going to make you sort of wonder and probably you're gonna want it to just continue and continue.
Well,
I've written it in the vein that I want a second series.
Well, coming from the point of view of a fan, seeing as you're the writer and I'm the reader here.
Yeah.
You know how often people say they can't wait for the finale. I can't wait for the finale in the sense that then it'll be done. So.
Yeah.
All right. That's a bit mean. What can you tell us about the last chapter?
Is that it's set 15 years later from the last chapter.
Epilogue.
Yeah, exactly. It's to do with Quentin Black potentially fulfilling his prophecy, and maybe taking down the Rat King. Who knows?
Okay, well that's coming up at the end of the show.
Teaser.
But first, another animal-based adventure. So why did we pick this book? Like really,
I think it was
why did we pick this book?
Accidentally, wasn't it? No, I can't remember.
You picked it for tips, didn't you?
Yeah, it was research. I just come across it when I was looking up. It was like, oh, have you heard of Wind of the Willows? It's got talking animals in it. That works for me. No, I can't actually remember the reason why. Why did we pick it?
Quintessentially British, I think, was the thing that keeps arising. I feel that it's a classic. It wasn't a classic when it was written. I think it was quite poorly received, but
really?
Now,
was it?
Yeah,
you surprised me.
But it's now become sort of an integral part of the sort of like youth education. It's something that a lot of people will have read when they're really young.
Yeah.
And everyone knows the story of. I mean, everyone has the references, sort of Mr. Toad and all this kind of stuff.
There's something just fundamentally hilarious about a toad driving a car.
Yeah. I think it's one of those stories as well. I don't think I remember reading it when I was a wee youth. I had it read to me.
Out then, mate.
Yeah,
you're
exactly,
probably reading Stormbreaker.
Yeah, something. But I think it's one of those books, a bit like Alice in Wonderland, where people have heard of about so much that it's also been a simulacrum of the time. See you later. And I think that...
Can you talk like a normal person?
I'm wearing the hat.
This pod is starting to become a bit of a caricature of itself, isn't it?
Yeah. Love that.
It's a simulacrum of itself.
Yeah.
You say caricature?
Caricature of itself, yeah.
Right.
And yeah, I don't think a lot of people have bothered to read it in this day and age. When did it come out? How old is it?
50, 60, 70 years?
It does read like that.
I think it's like early 1900s, wasn't it?
I don't know. I don't really care.
Alright.
Did you know? Josh is just checking his book.
Do a cut and we'll make it really obvious. I'll just flick through.
Are you trying to do a sound effect? Did you get this from the library?
That's staying in. What's the
1908.
Oh really? Turn of the century.
1908.
1908. Yeah.
Fuck! I've been looking at the wrong book on Wikipedia.
It is funny. When was Wuthering Heights out? Because
that's like 1850 something.
Exactly. Like there's only 60 years in between those two books. Yet this is much more to me interpretable.
But it's for children.
Oh, you should see some of the words.
Well, actually, I'd argue that throughout, it's almost like it's not for children. It's like forgotten that it might be a child reading it. I think it's meant to be enjoyed by children, but I don't think it's necessarily. It's not written as a children's book. I think in a lot of ways.
Okay.
No,
is there any more sort of concept? Because I know I sort of personally got the sense from reading it and the sort of meandering way it's written that it is just like it's like a classic bedtime story that I turned into a novel thing. Well,
I think that's what it was supposed to originally be. Is that Kenneth Graham was writing it for?
Yeah,
it was like a sort of spoken thing to his
exactly.
kid Alistair. But then there is like a belief that actually, I think his wife was called Elspeth, who sort of hammed that up a bit and said, "Oh yeah, no, it was incredibly organic and it was just told from this point of view to the son." And blah, blah, blah. I think. Yeah, but it has a kind of Tolkien-esque sort of storytelling.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. Okay.
It unfolds organically. Yeah, I said it.
Right. Anything about Kenneth Graham? I reckon he's a posh little.
Oh, I forgot to do that. Actually, I know nothing about Kenneth Graham. He's got two first names.
Immediately suspicious, eh, Josh?
Exactly. Yeah. Is he real? Is it a pseudonym?
So he was born. He was born in Edinburgh.
Yeah,
and his mum died when he was. I think he was like 5, like really young.
Oh no, I felt bad for saying he was a posh twat.
And his dad was an alcoholic.
Yeah.
Well, he was quite posh. I think he went to.
He was definitely a posh twat. All of his characters are little posh twats.
He went to.
Sorry, that was great.
You've been on the beers, mate.
Sorry about that, lads.
Yeah. I think he went to like a private school when he was younger.
Yeah,
and then he worked for the Bank of England. What was really interesting when I was reading this is that it said that he was quite a reserved person, which was interesting considering that the Bank of England was supposed to be quite like a bizarre place that encouraged tolerant.
You're thinking of Gringotts?
Yeah, I think you're thinking of Gringotts.
No. Apparently, the Bank of England was supposed to be quite eccentric, and he was a bit too normal to work there.
Really?
Yeah. So they had a bit of a reaction to him, and he didn't really kind of get on with them.
So you just wrote about it.
The character of Toad from Wind in the Willows was based on his son. So
because he was always running off and driving?
Well,
hit and runs,
really, or the jowl.
I think his son. Yeah.
All right, don't tell me his son died or something. I feel
awful.
He
did. Yeah.
Are you having a laugh?
Yeah, he committed suicide.
No.
Yeah, I think. Although they said it might have been.
Are
killed,
you serious?
Yeah, I'm 100% serious.
Oh, I feel awful.
Yeah.
People just put in Frog Boy.
Just to like. actually, people used to call him Mouse, and he was blind in one eye and had a squint in the other.
How did he get anything done?
This is turned into this episode of X Factor.
He should not be allowed to be behind the wheel.
God, all right. I'm sorry, Kenneth. Yeah. I didn't mean it, but you are a posh twat. Anything else about Kenneth?
I think he was clearly a bit of a romantic in terms of like the countryside. He was in that sort of like golden age, golden era kind of like. He didn't like change, and he was quite conservative, and he didn't want anything new to happen.
Do you reckon, when we were speaking about Wuthering Heights, is that when there was she spoke a lot about the countryside. Do you reckon just before the internet, people were just sort of addicted to their surroundings and described that more, and then when people got the internet, they could just look at other things? And so it was less interesting. I couldn't tell you what was outside this window, but I got free porn, baby.
Isn't the point of a window that you can look outside of it? So
depends on the window. Stained glass. It's about.
You get blacked out windows for the wrong way. Like, in a similar thing to your porn thing, it's sort of voyeuristic. You like people looking in, but you don't like people to look out.
But if you lived in the country and you had a beautiful
landscape
around your house, would you be interested in that? I mean, we live on a pretty boring residential street in North London.
The environment, people prefer to live in the country and speak about it more in the olden days. It's nicer. Well, yeah, but they had nothing else to do.
Yeah, that's true. I agree with that.
Well, in fairness, I feel like that is often the narrative of a lot of these books is there is so little to do in the countryside that suddenly these like social relationships become inherently more interesting and like weirdly more intense.
Like Emmerdale.
It's sort of like cabin fever. Like, yeah, exactly. Yeah, like. I'll
tell you what it's like the Archers.
Yeah, I love the village politics of the Archers. I listened to it the other day. I was quite hungover and couldn't get out of bed.
You listened to the Archers?
Yeah, it was just on
the radio. Sounds like hell, man.
You got a flat cap on. You look like you're in the Archers.
Yeah, you do.
It's because it's my finale.
Trouble up, Mill.
It's basically like the whole episode will be like someone's really annoyed because someone like planted a hedge that just goes over someone else's land slightly.
Absolutely wank.
Or there's like an affair.
No, there's very rarely anything.
No, there are affairs. The most common.
So this is on the radio.
It's been on the radio for about 60 years.
The most common themes in the Archers are someone having an affair, someone stealing someone else's cows, and some kind of young person who wants to leave and doesn't get on with like the elderly.
And yet it's still more interesting than Wind in the Willows, which leads me on
I'm pretty sure there was
the cows is a theft, to be fair.
There was quite a controversial moment where they had their first like gay person on there the other day, I think, and it was sort of a big deal. Even about 40 years after everyone else had sort of.
At least it's progressive, I suppose.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
it's progressing.
Okay, which leads us on to the synopsis of this little woodland tale. I don't really have one, but I can try and go off the cuff. So, a nervous mole moves into a new like waterside environment.
Yeah.
Befriends a rat.
Yeah.
And then they just start sort of hanging out and eating a lot of food.
They went on a boat, didn't they? And then the mole was like, let me have a little go on the boat. And then the rat was like, no, you can't have a go on the boat. And then they tumbled over and they lost all their picnic.
And that basically is the whole book.
Yeah.
But then elsewhere you've got Badger in the Woods, which are being taken over by, what is it again?
No, the weasels and stoats already live there and they're little naughty bastard creatures.
Yeah, okay. And then you've got Toad in Toad Hall,
yeah,
who's like a posh guy,
yeah,
obsessed with motor cars.
Well, I think originally he's obsessed with boats, then he gets obsessed with sort of like caravans, and then he gets obsessed with eventually by motor cars. Yeah,
and basically, other than like them having lots of food and like sort of pottering about, the only real like narrative thread is Toad getting in trouble.
He goes to prison, and
then escapes.
Yeah.
I mean, does anything else happen?
Because then he gets back home after dealing with
and he's lost Toad.
Train driver, some old woman on a barge, and then something else happens. He gets back to Toad Hall and realises his estate has been taken over by all the aforementioned weasels and stoats from the wild woods.
Squatting.
They squat, exactly. Then they find a secret hidden hatchway, and then they drive...
Don't spoil the end. People might want to read it.
We're doing a synopsis. then they drive out the weasels and stoats, and then they just are happy.
It's good. Got anything to add?
Yeah. I'll cast on the table. I like the book.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting. I like the way that there was a sort of a two-part structure or a three-part structure. And I'm sure we'll get onto this a bit later on regarding the various roles and the different types of characters there were. But it felt to me like the first part started off where Mole, who's outside of society, is brought into society by Rat.
Yeah.
And he's like sort of more like kind of common man figure. Like like high society, gets brought into it by Rat.
Is it high society? Is that what it's supposed to be?
Well, I think it's kind of like, if you think sort of Downton Abbey-esque, I feel like Rat's kind of like a bit, it's sort of like a butler or like someone's manservant. He's not like at the top like Toad is, but he's that sort of like the middle class.
Enjoys to find the things in life.
Yeah, and I feel like the first part is where the Mole gets brought in. Yeah. And then the second part is where Toad, who's at the top, gets pushed out.
Yeah.
And then the third part is the kind of coming together of the two. Because if you notice, like, it starts off with you're constantly following Mole and then you're constantly following Toad. And then the third part is like kind of bringing together. And
that makes sense. Okay.
That's really good.
You took more from it than me, I think. Let's crack on with our novel adventure. So my first question is, why can't all the animals talk?
Yeah, I found that really, really troubling.
Like, the sheep can't talk, the mayfly can't talk, the horses can't talk.
Yeah. It seems to be a very selective group of people.
Yeah.
And I didn't like how they would interact with the humans. And so, like, when Toad went to prison, is what the prison system is basically doing, is imprisoning a toad. It's bonkers.
Right. But they're treated, like, identical to humans, aren't they?
Well, but then that goes back to, what do you draw the line between...
Yeah, what's wrong with the horse?
Like, maybe because they can't speak English.
Did the horse ever get asked the question? Because the horse might be able to talk.
Yeah.
Good point. But the sheep... I think they make some reference to the fact that the sheep can't.
Well, not everyone likes to talk. Much of a different language.
Yeah, it just seems strange. So, because some of the animals, well, the main characters all have a human voice. I don't know where. It just seems like Kenneth Graham has just decided that this works for him, and he's just used a very willy-nilly way of identifying who gets to speak and who doesn't.
Yeah.
And whatever fits into his novel, fantastic. No one's after big questions to why the horses can't talk.
I've got a big question for you. Do you think that the animals are actually animals?
Fucking hell.
That's a serious question.
No, no, I don't actually, because they all wear clothes.
And they drive cars.
Yeah, they drive cars. And also, they have guns.
Yeah?
Who's making animals guns to fit their little animal fingers?
Well, presumably other animals.
Well, so presumably,
got a whole society.
If we're using that logic, then there is a gun maker by the river or something who is making arms for the guns. And then it wouldn't be a stretch to say that the animals have wars with guns.
Yeah, they sort of do have a war.
With guns.
Yeah, they have the guns, yeah.
It's bonkers.
They actually use the same currency as the humans because they buy things off each other.
Yeah, and also they eat the same stuff. So they... In every way, they're anthropomorphized.
The way that I saw it was that the animals are almost like the countryside folk, and then the humans are the city folk.
No, not necessarily, because kind of. But that you can still be of an upper class, because you said earlier about the sort of social mobility element. I agree that Mole was probably lower, but I think Ratty was still a bit of a middle class toff.
Yeah, definitely he was. Yeah.
But then, they progressed up, and Toad was just an absolute... But how has he made his wealth as well?
He's just inherited it, hasn't he?
Oh, has he?
I think so. He's just inherited it.
Well, it's like that Gatsby thing as well. It's a bit sort of unknown from what I can remember.
So, were you insinuating that, like, they're all just given names based on their, like, character traits, but they're basically just people?
Yeah. I could get behind that theory.
I actually think that would make it a lot more interesting.
Yeah. Okay, the way that I see it, I think whether they're animals or not is kind of not important. So sorry for asking that kind of trick.
It's all right. It seems like you've led me on the garden path now.
the way that I understood it is actually by making them animals, I mean, so something that I read was really interesting where Beatrix Potter criticised it by saying, well, at one point Toad combs his hair, and toads don't have hair. It's like he should read a book or look at a toad, and it's like, yeah, but you kind of missed the point here, Beatrix. It's like, I love your work, but like,
Well, they were all quite... Oh, sorry, no, go on, yeah.
But I think that by making them animals, you've then removed all semblance of, worrying about whether they have to eat, what kind of job they have, like, do they have to deal with, like diabetes and health problems, and how does their currency and stuff work? All these questions which you kind of want to ask, but actually that's a distraction. Because for me, the book was written about characters, and everyone in that book has familiar character traits to someone that you know. I think that's why I like the book, is because you're kind of getting this impression of different types of people that all kind of like you can relate to.
Okay. Do you think there's any relation to the character selection to the animal selection? So say like the toad, the mole, the rat and the badger, they're all quite undesirable and like not venomous, what do I mean?
I know what you mean. They're like vermin.
Vermin, exactly, yeah, like vermin creatures.
Yeah.
Would you reckon that's...
But they're all quite posh and quite sort of...
Would you reckon that's because... I mean, they're also very traditional countryside creatures, and you've got to remember, like, there aren't elephants in the UK, which is like clearly where it's set, so...
True.
There is like a limit to what they can do, but I think...
like the rabbits are just like nothing, and rabbits are quite cute.
Yeah.
But there are so many rabbits...
When the rat did the duck song, they didn't do any... That was shit, wasn't it? They didn't do any sort of retort. They didn't like a rat rap or anything like that. But like, so there's a certain line which I think goes back to the original question as to why they've given the four. It's just the four creatures, basically. Oh, and the otter.
Oh, that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it doesn't make any sense. That was basically it. It was like he's just selected these set group of people, and the lines between who has got like a personification, who hasn't, is quite blurry.
I don't know.
Maybe it's as simple as that it was personal, like to him where he lived, and they were just like creatures that you saw a lot.
Yeah,
I think so. I mean, there's definitely...
I've never seen a fucking badger in real life. I saw one that got run over in the road. It was absolutely massive, isn't it?
I had to walk down a pathway, and it was in in the middle of the pathway. It was just growling at me, and I was like,
they're scary, man.
They're quite aggressive.
Also, on the otter thing, don't understand the otter thing. Don't understand the otter child being lost.
That chapter was...
But the entity... What the fuck was that?
What pan?
So there was like a big
God.
God appeared out of nowhere, was concealing the otter for a while, and then just never returned. I don't understand.
JRoy's going to tell me something about that chapter. Okay, so I thought that was just absolute.
So to give the listeners some context, there's a point where one of the animals, their son goes missing. And it's like sort of.
But he's not a character really until then. It's just like he springs up basically in that chapter.
Well, no, he has lunch with Mole and Ratty.
Of course he does, yeah.
When in the start, we know when they go on the boat.
Yeah,
and they
but he's not a big part of it though at all.
No. It has no.
True.
It doesn't have to be. So there's a point where one of the animals, Otter, his son goes missing. His son's basically quite adventurous and has gone out in the wild somewhere. And mischievous, yeah. And he's gone missing for a couple of days, and the dad, the Otter, is quite distraught, doesn't know where he is. He's like going to wait out on the riverbed every night to kind of see if he comes back. It's very sad. So then Rat and Mole feel compelled to search up and down the river to see if they can find the son. At which point, as they're kind of like gently sort of floating along, Rat hears this music and he's like, "Oh wow, what is this like pan music? This is like this panpipe music. This is
maybe
amazing.
That's the Wind in the Willows, actually."
Well, that's the thing. Ooh. And this ties something in a second. So, and then they come across this figure, this kind of god figure, which has got the otter like wrapped up in his on his lap, and he's like playing his pipes, and he's made out to be Pan, like the god Pan. Sort of like got goat legs. And
we've mentioned the god Pan in Secret History, actually, haven't we?
Yeah. I think he's a Greek god. So, and then at that point, Pan disappears. They find the little kid, and he's like very safe and wrapped up and been protected by, which is kind of synonymous, or at least analogous maybe, with the safety of the countryside. And he's then brought back to his dad.
Yeah.
And I think what feels so weird to us is that around that kind of time there was a lot of interest in mysticism. So this idea of like hearing voices, and you think about Arthur Conan Doyle like loving sort of like talking to the dead and all this kind of stuff. That it was an interest of the middle classes, was to be like, I kind of want to play dangerously outside the idea of this universal god.
It just seems like out of nowhere, and it doesn't fit with the rest of the book.
Well, it all takes place in one chapter.
Yeah, and it's just Iceland, and it just seems like there's not a lot of like supernatural. I mean, apart from the animals speaking, there's not much else supernatural stuff that occurs. Like they sort of hint that the wild woods, where all like as we spoke about the weasels and stoats and whatever, seem to have some sort of like eerie feeling about it. That's the closest we get to another supernatural.
It made me think of this can make me sound like a right knob, but in the Odyssey.
No. Do you mean Abe's Odyssey?
When Odysseus kind of gets brought off, and what are they called the sirens?
Harpies.
Yeah, the harpies. Yeah, and they're singing, and they kind of get drawn to that. It's a bit like that, but then without the terrible ending of that, where they all get like bitten apart and stuff.
Yeah.
But it kind of I think the word is Homeric.
Oh, I don't know, mate.
I think that it's like
related to Greek mythology.
Yeah, so I think that's sort of what that's.
Yeah, I get, but like I understand that, and that's interesting. But the thing for me is that just seemed out of place. I don't understand.
Cut paste.
Yeah, exactly. I don't understand the reason.
That was a bit. It did feel a bit disjointed to me.
Yeah,
that part.
It was and that's what I meant earlier when I said it was like. It felt like a bedtime story thing. Yeah. It felt like that just occurred to him and it just popped.
Yeah.
Should we talk a bit about the characters then?
Yeah.
Why is Badger so grumpy?
Well, actually, I was thinking about this, and the reason why I think he's so grumpy is that he's bought real estate in the wild woods, and the rest of them don't live in the wild woods, and the wild woods is notoriously full of vermin and shithouses.
Dodgy area.
Yeah, really dodgy area. So if he's bought a hole there maybe 20, 30 years ago, it's seen it sort of rise up as this bit of a shitty area. He's got money invested in there.
He's in Croydon.
We've now just found out that he has, well, none of them have got jobs, so he can't get the capital to move out, so he's stuck there.
It's not worth anything.
Therefore...
I don't think he is grumpy.
No, he's not really. He's just everyone always talks about him being grumpy.
Yeah, he's quite serious.
He's grumpy. Have you ever seen like any of the like cartoon adaptations of it?
I vaguely remember
because he's always really grumpy.
Well, I think that might be. I think like badgers are seen because they're like in real life they're like nocturnal and they could be seen as a grumpy.
Yeah,
I could see that like an owl is wise, a badger might be grumpy.
But I think,
and like at the first bit where they have the lunch,
yeah,
I think the badger just sort of comes like out of a shrub, effectively, sort of sneers and then fucks off. I don't understand what that was for, but maybe that can be seen as grumpy.
I think what you're experiencing though is Mole projecting being unsure about Badger.
Yeah, okay.
And so he kind of, you're made to feel like, oh, he's this kind of elusive, mysterious, enigmatic figure. But then, when the minute that, like, they're kind of like knocking on Mole's door and like Rat has told him, oh, you don't want to knock on
Badger's door.
Badger's door.
Yeah.
And Rat's going, you don't want to bother Badger. Like, he's really like, and because you've been introduced to Rat, who's this very incredibly generous and open-minded and like, come stay with me for weeks kind of person. But then once you're inside, and you can sense the tension from Mole that like, oh, I don't really know if I want to see him. I mean, I'm fascinated, but I don't know if I can do it.
Yeah.
Once he then goes in, Badger's incredibly like, yeah, of course you can come in. I'll show you around. Like his dinner. Like, don't worry.
See you later, bro.
It's like when you've got fucking catchphrases.
I don't think that. I think deliberately Badger is designed to be a misunderstood figure.
Okay.
Yeah. I thought it was all right. I liked him in the battle.
He's clubbing people.
He really come out of his shell in the battle. To be fair, I think all the lads in the battle did quite a good job actually. And up to that point, I didn't like any of them.
Do you want to tell them
the last chapter?
Do you want to tell the listener what the battle is?
Yeah, well, I think we touched on it in the synopsis anyway. So basically, when Toad is a bit of a prick and he sort of gets, he escapes from prison. For Grand Theft Auto of a motor car. He then makes his way back to his house, but he finds out the Weasel and Stoats from Wildwood have taken over his house. Squatting, exactly. Which, to be fair, is annoying. And then Badger says, oh, you've got this tunnel in the pantry. So then basically they get loads of guns from somewhere, which is what I was talking about. Like he was like, had loads of guns and loads of sort of swords, and we're just going to go up to the pantry trapdoor and just shout loads and just knock out some people. As soon as they did that, all the Weasel and Stoats sort of scattered and they had their house back. And I think they had a party or something.
Yeah, probably lunch.
Yeah, probably lunch. Yeah, in fact, I think it was lunch. Yeah.
I like how cynical you are of this. And you're taking it so literally. I know for a fact that you love films like Bug's Life. I haven't got a problem with that.
I think the weird thing about this book is that there seemed to be... The themes of the book didn't align to either a child's book nor an adult book, because I think the themes of prison and breaking out of prison and committing crimes and stuff is quite mature... like subject matter.
I'll tell you what, actually, no, that's true, because when Toad was going through this whole thing with a motor car, there was quite a vivid depiction of what addiction is.
Yeah, and
so the fact that he was actually quite it was quite concerning. Where this guy's obsessed with it and he's like lying to get. And you constantly hear he's a really nice guy, but then he's like prepared to pretend like he's sick to get the doctor to come in and to get sympathy. And then there's like this real. He's in like the real grip of an addiction.
Yeah, well, you mentioned Bug's Life, which I will defend to the grave.
Yeah, a bit unjustly,
but exactly. And what I would say about Bug's Life is an analogy for like Marxism, right?
Right.
So it operates on two levels. If it was literally just a story of an ant having to give up its grain to a grasshopper, that wouldn't be very interesting. But because it has two levels to it, it is good. One of my qualms with this is I just didn't get what the point was.
That's what we're speaking about. Is effectively a tale that can be interesting to a child because it's sort of a crazy, wacky tale, but at the same time it has this, as Joshua said, the addiction theme running through, and like Prison Break. Prison Breaks are fun, aren't they? You should be in prison, not out of it.
He should never Toad in prison anyway.
Exactly.
No, but like, all right, the addiction thing I get, and there was a couple of adult like moments, but there's no like, it doesn't like, it didn't feel like it meant anything to me as a whole.
I think the general theme I can say from the book is a lamentation of new technology and of change and of a lot of things that kind of came out of that around that point in time.
It seems
sort of a bit like kind of like William Blake, like Auden style. You know, and the countryside's so great and everyone's ruining it with their motor cars. And that's kind of what Badger is. Badger's like all this nonsense that's coming in.
Yeah. Well, like the amount of times like the very start of the book, Moore was like, oh, and I'd be a one with the river, and like Ray was like, yeah, the river is sick, definitely over the river.
Don't go to the wider world.
Exactly. And as soon as they spoke ill of the river bit back.
Well,
I like that.
So I'm going to do something almost unheard of in A&A, or in life, really, and I'm going to try and make a serious point.
What do you mean, you doing it? Okay, right.
To me, this book has a very pernicious message at its core, and this is why I don't like it.
Dictionary check there for pernicious, please.
It's basically about everyone having their place in the world and behaving a certain way, and if you don't do that, you'll get punished. So you've got all these people sticking rigidly to their character traits. You've got the rabbits who are scared all the time. You get quotes like, because that's what badgers are like. Even the washerwoman later on in the book. I can't fix my mind on anything but washing. She's a washerwoman. That's the limit of her existence. Do you know the fable of the frog and the scorpion?
It rings a bell.
Yeah. So, frog trying to cross a river.
Yeah.
No, sorry, scorpion trying to cross a river.
That's bonkers.
Right. And it says to a frog, take me across the river, mate. And the frog goes, nah, I won't do that because you're going to sting me.
Yeah.
And he goes, nah, I won't sting you, mate. Why would I do that? And he goes, all right, I'll take him over. Pops the scorpion on top of him, swims across the river, halfway across the river, stings the frog, they both drown. And as he's going down, the frog says, why did you do that? And the scorpion goes, because I'm a scorpion. That's what scorpions do.
Okay.
This book is basically that. Yeah. Conforms to that worldview, right? Even to the point of the language where it says stuff like the practical toad rather than the toad was practical. It's like it's entrenched in his character.
Nice.
He can't get it out. And basically all that is to say, I think it's a pretty nasty book rather than the harmless romp that it's portrayed as. The message is basically, know your place, don't step out of line. Yeah. Toad has ambitions beyond his station, owning a car, and he's punished for it.
Well, he does drive it like a shithouse.
The otter's son goes like wandering, like we said earlier, and gets punished for it.
Yeah.
And even when at the start, when Toad's talking about like the morning to go on adventure, they're all so taken aback, like it's the most outrageous, heinous thing you could possibly suggest. And all he's really saying is, let's just go down the road. And it's basically very militaristic. And I think, and at the end when they talk about how they tamed the wild wood, it's basically like conquering it. It's basically a fucking colonialism, this book. Yeah. It's like military propaganda disguised as a roly-poly adventure, and I hate it.
Well, I think that you are reading that through the lens of 2019. Oh, sorry, 2020.
Yeah.
Oh, we're in 2020, lads.
Yeah. No,
you're reading that through the scope of a 2020.
I'm woke.
Glasses.
Are you saying I'm woke?
Well, no, I'm saying you're unwoke. because
asleep.
Because 100 years ago, when did we say 1908 or whatever? Yeah. This would have been interpreted completely differently, and obviously time has progressed technologically and otherwise, and socially, and so it shouldn't be viewed through the same stethoscope.
Yeah, but I still don't think it's a nice message for children that you are what you are. And you can't aspire to more.
But back when you were then, like you, if you're a baker's son, you were a baker's son for life. You can't just like go onto Indeed or LinkedIn and switch careers every 2 years.
That's true. Yeah.
Actually, I think there's some truth in what you're saying. But
damning.
but there's a slight nuance to it that I think you haven't quite got right.
Come at me, man.
Use the word nuance as well.
I think you're correct in saying, as Josh has just said as well, that there's a kind of resentment in technology and an unwillingness to kind of progress in that sense. I think, though, given it what I think was published in like 1908, that's off the back of a period of very strict social sort of steadfastness. So like everyone did know their place, and you can't get above your station. But then the first act that we witnessed is Mole coming out of his hole and going over to Ratty, who is a surprise, who is like incredibly open to him, and he is definitely better spoken, definitely like has more like he's
more ambitious. More
ambitious. Yeah. He's got more stuff in general. It's more, he's in tune with the higher society, which Mole hasn't been. Yeah. Similarly with Badger, who is clearly a working class character because the way that he talks, he gets corrected by Rat at one point saying, "No, but that isn't very good English," and he's like, "Well, I don't care what's good English." And he goes, Rat goes, "All right then." Clearly respects Badger in the same way that Badger is the person who is controlling in the room. He's the one who goes, "No, I have the sense here, I have the knowledge, I have the power." Even though socially I might be beneath, say like Toad in terms of the hierarchy. Yeah. Actually, Toad is like desperate for his respect.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think in that sense there is like social movement, and there is, but towards the end, like Mole is definitely like Toad is jealous of Mole. Right, and the respect that Badger gives to him. Yeah, so I think in that sense, actually, there is definitely the social mobility. There's definitely this idea of the idea that Mole will come to stay with Rat and they're like best pals now. Like I think that is something which is wrong about what you were saying. But I agree that there is definitely a sense of us and them in terms of countryside folk and the city folk and the not wanting to kind of move.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't seen a class system.
Sorry, I say wrong. I don't mean you're wrong.
No. I just hadn't seen a class system in it because I don't think I gave it enough respect. But it does make it more interesting.
Something that I found really interesting. So this is something that I had a bit of a preface in the front of the book. And once I had like a small example of this, it's actually easy to kind of extend it outside. So Mole being the kind of like sort of working class servant, or at least sort of like a lower level middle class.
Yeah. I don't know if that's necessarily true. I don't think he's a servant. I just think that he is very within himself and isn't like visible to society.
Yeah. Okay. So, but he's still at the bottom of someone's ladder.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And then you've got Rat, who's at the top of a ladder, but like isn't really going to get above that. And then you've got Toad, who... Now, this is really interesting, is that... So this preface described it as Toad being nouveau riche, i.e. like new money.
Yeah.
And that is something that which I hadn't picked up until rereading that section, where I think Toad's dad makes that money. He's like a businessman. The difference then being that the otter is like the aristocracy, so that's why he's like, I can just walk through the wildwood and it's absolutely fine. But then that makes
that's why Toad's a bit classless. And
Well, that's the thing, and that's kind of like the implication is that actually Toad kind of needs to be helped along and reminded of the values. Not the values of high society, but the values of self-respect.
Fair.
Fucking hell!
I didn't think we were going to have a serious conversation about this. No.
Good.
You got any more thoughts?
No.
I've done really well. I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
So, obviously, I mean, we touched on it a bit earlier, but the personification of various animals.
Yeah.
So, a mole being kind of underground and a badger being kind of rough and ready and a bit rough around the edges.
Yeah.
Yeah, boisterous.
So, this book was written in was published in 1908.
Yeah.
Do you feel that there are any animals today which would now be included if this story was rewritten?
Still set in the country?
No, it could be set in the city.
I wouldn't. Fox.
Pigeon.
And what would these animals hold in terms
crafty fox?
Crafty fox. The slime. It'd just be like Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Like Fantastic Mr. Fox is a lot better.
Yeah. The example I was thinking of was a peacock.
Well, that's sort of come into like common vernacular, isn't it?
Yeah, there's a mystery in there.
Because a mystery in that. What do you mean?
The pickup artist dude.
Oh yeah, exactly. Peacocking, sorry,
which is kind of like just displaying all of your stuff that you have. Like,
ostentatious.
But if it was going to be, you could easily do like, because obviously the class system still exists, so you could still do it. So who would be? I don't know. Who would be?
Rat would probably be like working class now.
Exactly. Yeah. And then, I don't know. Who
Pigeon's good shout.
A bird for Twitter.
Well,
It's quite difficult.
I think that in comparing it to other like fantasy, like animal-based things is interesting.
Do you feel like do you think this is a fantasy book?
Wow,
I don't.
Well, the animals speak. No, I know what you
drops
mean.
Mike.
Yeah. Yeah, I do think it's a fantasy book. Yeah, definitely.
Why
you can still. But it's almost like is that a parable? Is that the right thing where you can take lessons from it?
Yeah.
Because the animals speak, Josh. In real life, the animals don't speak.
But that doesn't make it a fantasy book.
Of course it does.
What does it make it then?
It's analogous, and it uses animals as a vehicle. But in the same way that, okay, let's say you've got a book.
And the animals use vehicles.
Sorry.
Zing!
Let's say you've got a book that was...
But you can take anything, like from Harry Potter, you can take the meaning you want out of it.
Wow.
Dumbledore hates Boris.
No, but I feel...
But it's still like it's a parable if you want to view it in that way, but that's still a fantasy book.
No, but in a fantasy book, you're exploring the fantasy world that is created. Whereas in this book, that's not the purpose. The purpose is to explore the characters
And it's set in a world we recognise.
But I don't think that's that's not what defines a fantasy book, though. I don't think, even though I don't know what that definition is.
Should we look it up? Should we look it up?
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
Josh. Okay, so I have a question. Do you feel that Animal Farm is a fantasy book?
Yeah.
You think Animal Farm is a fantasy book?
Because the animals talk. Yeah. No, I don't. You just got me there because that's really annoying. No, I don't. But everyone knows that's.
Do you think that Jack's like Scorpion and the Toad is a fantasy?
No, it's a parable, isn't it?
It's fable.
Fable. That's what I mean. Yeah, a fable.
So just because it's got talking animals doesn't necessarily mean.
Yes, that wasn't.
Okay, but all right.
Sorry, mate. No, you did have a question.
On the warp off here. Take out Jack. Take out Josh.
All right, take the fantasy word out of it, right? But compared to something like Watership Down, which is a fantastic book.
We should do it next year. That's what we should have said earlier. Yeah,
that's for me much better because there's a sense of like jeopardy and peril, and that book's really scary. And it's like, and it like, I don't know. There's something at stake throughout that keeps you gripped rather than just these people pottering about.
But do you feel that's kind of the same criticism though of people who criticise The Big Lebowski?
Yeah, I don't like The Big Lebowski,
which is fine. But then it's. Okay, so for people who don't know, The Big Lebowski is about this guy who's a stoner.
The dude.
And the dude, played by Jeff... Is it Jeff Bridges?
Yeah.
And so it's basically a snapshot of his life.
Yeah.
And the people that he meets. And that's all about the characters.
Yeah.
And the criticism of people who don't look into it too deeply go, oh, but nothing happens in it, nothing happens, which, as we know from a friend of the pod, Ollie Pearson, is not a good criticism of a book.
No, it's not.
So this book isn't about the peril and the jeopardy, although there is some jeopardy in it.
Okay.
It's more about exploring the characters and the character arcs and how the characters change. For instance, the fact that Toad has gone from being this like, oh, I've got to get on the new train, got to spend all this money, got to go, trouble with addiction, and suddenly towards the end, he's a changed character. Like
only barely change.
He does change.
Even in his speech, he was like, "Oh, we should do a composition by Toad, do a song by Toad, do a poem by Toad," and it was like someone had to intercept his invite and change it. So I don't know if that's not changing. That's being forcefully intervened with.
Yeah, but then directly after that, he then invites people around for dinner, and he's upstairs, and he does this sing-song to himself where he does what he would have done to those people, takes a big deep breath, goes downstairs, and then talks to everyone, and everyone's surprised that he's not saying, oh, the wonderful, fantastic Mr. Toad.
Yeah.
Like, his character has changed.
Yeah, okay.
Still a twat.
Mole's definitely changed.
Cheers.
Again,
cheers for that contribution.
Again, Ollie Pearson was
I'm annoyed
it's not the responsibility of the author to make you like the characters.
Yeah, that's true.
So do you feel then that, if it's comparable to a parable...
comparable.
Comparable. Do you feel then, obviously a parable is designed to take a lesson from it? Do you feel like you've learned nothing from it? Is that really what you're saying?
I think it was of its time.
But to be fair, it's not for me.
It's of its time as well, I think, more so.
And the message I took from it was basically just stay in your lane, which I don't like, which is why it rubbed me up the wrong way.
But also at the same point, none of the animals, as Josh was just describing, stay in their lane.
Toad doesn't.
Exactly, stays in the wrong fucking lane. So it gets into so much trouble. I think you can certainly take lessons from it, yeah. But it's also interesting as you were just citing that scorpion and frog thing.
Yeah.
And I presume that's from ancient
Greece. As I will. You presume it's what?
From ancient Greece, is it? Maybe?
No, I don't think it's that old.
Okay, a lot of the parables and fables that we know now are from way back when, like even further than 1908.
Yeah.
And so people have respect those with more
like the tortoise and
vigor. Yeah, exactly.
The lion and the mouse with the paw.
Should we do Aesop's fables at some point?
What I would like get Josh to grapple with the moral quandaries.
That'd be great.
That sounds good, yeah.
That's more animal stuff for you.
Yeah, good.
If I was a turtle and I saw a hare that's quicker than me, I always caught an Uber.
It's Bolt, mate.
All right, Josh, as a successful
novelist.
A novelist.
Yeah.
A novelist's adventure.
Yeah.
How did you feel about it?
How did you feel about it? Is your question you're going to ask me?
No, did you enjoy it?
How fucking dare you?
No, I'm just interested. If you like animal-based books.
Yeah, all my favourite books are animal-based. I kind of did, if I'm honest. Like, kind of not when I was reading it, but kind of in retrospect. I liked how the sort of the plot was quite light-hearted and fast. And I like, the characters weren't, but as I said, I didn't really grow an affinity with any of them necessarily, because I thought they were all sort of just like tough pricks.
Fucking hell. That's such a base criticism.
Well, no, sorry, that's all I've got. Who's the leading author here?
They're all tough pricks.
They won't get into my novel.
He's giving you his honest opinion.
It was.
You got to email that one into Reader's Digest, are you?
Amazon review, 1 star, top bricks.
Yeah. It was fine. What did you think of it?
I think I've made my views on it quite clear, but I think I appreciate it more now.
Yeah, I appreciate it more from Josh describing it, really. But this always happens in every pod, really.
Yeah,
I seldom come out with good opinions of books, and then Josh says something good. And I'm happy. Well, happy, yeah, certainly.
Thanks, mate.
Right.
I think for me, I like because I didn't give it a huge amount of respect in the first sort of 50 pages, so I wasn't really thinking about it on a kind of cerebral.
It sounds like a joke book, didn't it? I told a couple of people that Winning the Willows, and they've scoffed at me like I'm a.
It's not what you want to read on the bus, is it?
No, it's true.
So when I finished it, it took me a minute after I sort of processed it and thought about it a little bit, to actually recognise how much I did enjoy it, because I think I was sort of quite similar to you, Jack Webb. When I was reading that bit about the god Pan protecting the baby child, I was thinking, okay, this is a bit like wishy-washy and airy-fairy.
I sort of had an out-of-body experience at that point. I was like, am I reading the right thing? Because this seems far too biblical and far too...
But towards the end, after I had a bit of time thinking about it, I realised actually there was something really was quite sweet about it, and I like the camaraderie of it. And there's a bit. Can I read a bit out? That I really
you can. I like how nice everyone is to each other. That's quite nice.
There's just a really nice bit at the end.
That's quite nice.
There's just a paragraph right at the end. It's right at the end of the book that I thought I sort of closed the book and went, yeah, actually I like that.
Okay.
So it goes. So this is after the 4 friends have got back Toad's house, and they've kind of kicked them out, and they have this big party for everyone at the local place.
Yeah.
So it's talking about a mother weasel who's got one of her little kids, and they're just standing outside their door.
Weaslers.
And the mum says to the kid, "There goes the great Mr. Toad, and that's the gallant water rat, a terrible fighter, walking alongside him. And yonder comes the famous Mr. Mole, of whom you so often have heard your father tell. But when their infants were fractious and quite beyond control, they would quiet them by telling them how, if they didn't hush them and not fret them, the terrible grey badger would up and get them. This was a base libel on Badger, who, even though he cared little about society, was rather fond of children, but it never failed to have its full effect." And I thought, that's just such a nice way of putting it. It's such a lovely little concluding statement about just people. I don't know. There was a really nice recognition of the nuance behind some of these characters and some of these personalities.
It makes Badger sound like he's a paedophile.
That's base libel, mate.
Josh is banging his head against the table.
Okay.
Sorry, bro.
Right, do you want to do scores? There's no learning here, is there?
And now we know why Ollie left.
It's all become crystal clear.
Alright, we'll just got to put some scores on it then. So, out of 5, how much did it entertain you? How much has it stayed with you? And how much did you recommend it, Josh?
Yeah, entertained me. I'm going to go middle of the fence. Middle of the fence? On the fence? Middle of the fence. 3.
Yeah.
Which is notorious middle of the fence.
Yeah.
What's the next one?
How much has it stayed with you?
Stayed with me. Well, that's the thing, because I didn't think it stayed with me that much until JRoy just gave a very passionate testament to it, testimony. So I'm going to say 2.
And recommend it.
Recommend 3 again, because it was quite boring. But yeah, no, 3. That's it. I have nothing more to say about it. Really.
Okay, JRoy.
I'm hoping just to draw a line underneath it, if I'm honest.
How much did I enjoy it? I'd probably say 4.
Really?
Yeah. How much did it stay with me? Probably 3.
Mm-hmm.
And how much would I recommend it? Probably 3 again.
Okay.
So I liked it and I enjoyed it for what it was, but it's not like the most groundbreaking seminal piece of work.
No.
Yeah.
I liked how sort of quintessentially British it was.
Yeah.
And it sort of summed up that countryside in a nice way, I felt.
Mm. Yeah, okay.
And
I
Jack,
agree.
2-3-2 for me.
Ooh,
2-3-2.
all out the fucking blast out the gates.
Didn't really interest me at the time. Not that interested in the countryside. Didn't take a lot from it. However, this discussion has sort of made me think about it a bit more. But I don't think I'd recommend it.
Oh,
to many people.
that's quite nice. So that is a total of 25 out of 45, which is actually all right.
Yeah,
that's better than what I thought.
mid-table, isn't it?
That's mid-table, yeah, exactly. We need to have like a table of all of the
Yeah,
scores.
we should pull that together as the end of the season.
A season end, season finale.
Yes, and speaking of finales,
yeah, WormWorld episode 6, the finale. So it's called...
Is that what it's called?
No, it's called I've Got a 6-pack. A 6-pack of lagers. Because I didn't know what to call it. And I've also followed this number. If you've been following it closely, which I have been because I write it, you've had the number in the title, but it hasn't really reflected.
Also, can I just say, you haven't been following it closely because earlier on when you were writing it, you said to me, I can't remember what I called the Queen's daughter.
The King's daughter.
I can't remember what I called the King's daughter.
Yeah, well, that's a spoiler. So this is quite difficult to do because, yeah, as I said earlier, I was told today that this was the finale, but I've been wanting to do this for another sort of 10 to 15
It's
episodes.
almost like it's been cancelled.
Yeah, exactly. Well, no, let's not say that. So up until now, in the last few chapters, basically Stanley the King's Hand has been found out via the Rat King that he is a grass, basically. So he has been beheaded by Sir Mastilladay. Then they had a meeting in Slow Lorry's alchemy basement. And then they found out they were quite annoyed about that, obviously, because he was part of the Shadow Crawler Society. Yeah. And so from that, they unravelled a plan called the Project Hamelin, which was basically getting rid of the rats like the Pied Piper of Hamelin. And so this is the next chapter of... Very nice, indeed, yeah. This is the next chapter of that, trying to bring all of the loose ends together, which has been almost impossible. Okay?
Yes. Take it away,
There might be quite a lot of commentary going through this one, because I'm going to need to...
Say commentary like it's adding to it when really you're just explaining it.
It's kind of like when they have that little cut of the film with the director sort of doing the voiceover on the DVD.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Okay.
Take it away.
I've got a 6-pack. A 6-pack of lagers.
Is that the title?
Yeah, that's the title of the chapter. Because I haven't got a 6-pack. But I have got a 6-pack of lagers.
Quen stands atop a frozen knoll, overlooking over the myriad of lights that ignite the vast royal landscape in front of him. The cold, sharp wind whistle past his ears in the height of winter, making an almost audible murmur of destiny as it passes by.
Pathetic fallacy there as well.
It is time, my dear Quen. It's been 15 years since the fall of Project Hamelin, Since the fall of the Shadow Crawler Society, as we know it, and for 15 years you have been under my guidance preparing for this very day. We are the last remaining members of the faction, and we must honour those that have fallen and come before. You're ready to fulfill the lunar prophecy that was written in the stars many moons ago, and avenge your parents that the Rat King did slain on that fateful night.
Yeah. Pretty clever as well, because there was a whole piece, if you remember, with the star and the moons were talking, so that's like a constellation space-based thing.
Pronounced an Airtrix.
Yeah, that's right. Airtrix, the wise owl who released the scripture of Project Hamelin.
Who was hunched against the great staff next to the mole, overlooking the great bastion of Animalia.
Ooh.
That's quite nice,
I don't think that makes sense, but...
Fuck off.
A single tear trickled down the mole's face at the announcement of his late parents. It fell from his cheek on its gravity-stricken journey, and before the time it hit the ground, had solidified into a small, pearlescent pellet of of salty ice that smashed upon impact with the cement-like ground. Ooh. In his hand he held a carefully unfolded Polaroid of a younger Quen, who was accompanied by Mama and Papa Black at the youth archery tournament, which triggered the linear set of events that had led him to this very spot.
Do you remember the youth archery tournament?
Yeah, bullseye.
That happened, senior bullseye, yeah, exactly.
On this very day.
How could I forget?
You can't. It's such good writing.
Well, your its haven't got apostrophes in, so...
Well, blame fucking autocorrect for that. That's not my problem.
Yeah, to be fair, he hasn't got an editor yet.
That's basic English.
Yeah.
Thank you, Airtrix. You have been ever so good to me since that night, and I've learned much from your wise methods. Who would have known that the worms, those cursed worms, were acting true to their name and would unveil the secrets of the Hamelin scripture to the Rat King in Slow Laurie's underground basement? Our very enemy knew our every move due to those cretinous harpies and held a grudge against our family.
So WormWorld, so they were the worms that you originally encountered were spies, and all of the underground activities happening in the underground, which the worms are in.
Okay. But didn't they get eaten?
Well, yeah, but there are other worms, aren't there, obviously? Okay. Worms everywhere.
Two a penny, mate.
Too many worms, if anything.
We were walking into a trap in that tunnel that my dear father made all those years ago with his bare paws. An ambush! They had to pay for their actions, and pay they did, with Lord Slowworm's head on a pike. But now it's the Rat King who will pay the price of years of tyranny that he has inflicted on the residents of Animalia. Whether they be deceased, or as good as when they were living, spoke the mole, whilst he tucked the picture into his breast pocket and sealed its insertion with a small pat.
It's a complex sentence structure, that.
Yeah.
That was clunky like an old train, mate.
Yeah, it weren't good. It sounded better when I was writing it, if I'm honest.
Oh, my sweet Esmeralda, I miss her so. She is meeting me atop the castle wall when the clock strikes 12 and will grant me access into the inner keep, where I will make my way past the guards of weasels and stuff. Fucking hell, you joking?
Have
you literally copied... Sorry, I've missed that.
You've missed out a whole passage of text there.
Sorry, I'll go back.
Fucking hell.
Okay.
You've missed out this bit here.
Stephen Fry wouldn't have missed that, would he?
Right. It is painful to see me... Oh, sorry. It is painful for me to see you leave my... Oh.
Do you want me to do it?
No, I want to do it. Is that the old guy? It doesn't say...
Airtrix, okay. Yeah.
Right. It is painful for me to see you leave my Quen, but you are a man mole now, and this is your destiny. Quen. The sun and the moon spoke to me about this day after the fall of Hamelin, and it was my task to prepare you the best I could to end this once and for all. But promise me, you and Esmeralda, in brackets, King's daughter.
Yeah, because I'd forgot, because I've lost the first two chapters of this, and I referred to the King's daughter as a name, and I think it's Esmeralda, but I don't actually know. So that might be a continuity error.
Yeah, the listener can go back and trawl through.
And also, you've cleared it up with the brackets.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's like it's sort of like a failsafe.
But promise me, you and Esmeralda, King's daughter, will be back in the Hallowed Elm by sunrise with the Rat King Slayethid.
Yeah, new word, mate.
And the Citadel free at last. I will pray for your return, but you must come back. Oh, my sweet Esmeralda, I miss her so. She is meeting me atop the castle wall when the clock strikes 12, and will grant me access into the inner keep, where I will make my way past the guards of weasels and stouts towards the royal chamber. Yeah, right. So weasels and stouts, which you've literally nicked from Winds in the
Yeah, no, I knew I was doing that. I was making it relevant to the book.
It's an homage.
This isn't an homage.
This is an homage.
Patent pending. Towards the royal chamber, killing anyone who dares cross my path. I'm going to read this as it's written. I will use the shadows.
I will use the shadows.
I will use the shadows as my disguise, as my ancestors did, and I shall end her father's savagery once and for all. She has led a tormented and anguished life under his rabid rule, and we cannot wait one further night to be free from his tyrannic rule. Having wed in the spring, expressed the mole, followed by a wry smile at the thought of such passionate matrimony. Always get a bit saucy.
Passionate matrimony is alright.
At this, Quen grabbed an arrow from his quiver upon his back and placed it within the bow, ready for its flight towards the top of the castle wall. Without a single hesitation, he pulled the dart back and released, launching the arrow towards the keep at a rate of knots.
Right, knots, really fast, mate. Well, and also this is character progression. You remember in the archery tournament, he was bad, but now he is good at archery.
Okay. Right, rate of knots. That's a ship. Okay, never mind.
I thought that was shit as well, but I couldn't think of anything else.
Ship, like maritime.
Oh, right.
Where it made a swift thud. Launching the arrow towards the keep at a rate of knots, where it made a swift thud, and implanted itself within the wooden cladding which bordered the castle.
Okay.
This time is night, Aetrix.
No, the time is nigh.
The time is nigh, Aetrix. I must bid you farewell. Look to the east and...
Oh my lord! This is the best line.
We're going to get sued for this. Look to the east and first light. When you see me, you will know that today is a new tomorrow. Godspeed, Quen. Godspeed. This sounds upsettingly like there might be a sequel.
Yeah. Yeah, there was. What did you think? It wasn't bad, was it?
Yeah, I quite liked it.
Yeah, basically...
It's quite dramatic.
Yeah.
Well, 15 years later, what happened in Project Hamelin? Couldn't think of anything, so I just thought I'd go 15 years later.
That on there if you're trying to get a sequel.
I knew what was going to happen.
Okay.
But then, yeah, it opens up to the prospect of a sequel by, will he actually murder the Rat King now? Or will he not?
I don't think he
will. But it was Quen's prophecy.
Won't.
But it's also, the worms were the spies for the royals, which, I mean, that's taken everyone back, isn't it? Everyone thought they were just an oppressed, almost subservient species, but they were pivotal. So you thought, the worms, WormWorld, maybe they wouldn't have any sort of...
It's quite Orwellian in this way, isn't it?
Significance, exactly. But
they're reporting on each other.
Exactly, yeah.
The oppressed masses.
Exactly, and moles in tunnels, that's where worms live. It's quite smart, actually.
I'm down for a sequel. What would you call it?
WormWorld Part 2.
Oh, God.
Return of Worm.
Worm harder.
Well, that concludes this series of a novel adventure.
I thought it went well.
And WormWorld as well. So we'll see if that gets revived.
See if it gets included in the pod.
If we run out of features, it might get revived.
It's the ultimate cliffhanger when the ending doesn't get included.
But also the fan sort of vote.
Furore.
There'll be a petition.
Yeah, exactly. I think so as well.
Oh, I quite like the idea that actually the fans write in and they say, how do you want this to end? A, B, or C? Like one of those.
Well, actually, the alternate ending I was going to have, just to piss you off, was going to be Project Hamelin. Was they were going to just be on like a farm, and like Graham Hamlin was going to be like an exterminator and just come in and just kill all the rats.
That's quite meta, actually.
Yeah.
I mean,
that would have been good. I thought that had been shit, so I didn't bother doing that. That's really annoying.
It's a bit like a sort of like animal in brackets fantasy. According to Josh, version of sort of like and it was all a dream. But
exactly. That's what I was going to go for, but I wanted the sequel, so I thought I'd keep it. So that was my other idea. That's my other idea. Yeah.
Happy New Year to all, and we'll see you soon with some more books.
Laters.